Week 2, we made it. Looks like we made it. All right, I promise I won't do that. Actually, I can't promise I won't do that, but I won't do that anymore in this video. Um, it's a lot of work. I've sat and kind of struggled through things in the same way that you are now. I know these accelerated programs. Um, uh, the finish line comes quickly, but the finish line also comes quickly, right? There's a lot of content, a lot of things to work through, and and sometimes it can just feel a lot, especially when you're working at the same time. And I just, not that this makes anything any better, but I do know what you're going through. I worked through my master's and I worked through my PhD, full-time jobs, teaching jobs, and it's a lot, um, and it's hard to find a balance between this work and that work, especially with the reading. As English teachers, very often we pride ourselves on our ability to read, and then we get into this, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much, and it's so different, and it's so fast. One of the pieces of advice that a professor gave me once, and it really kind of changed um, my approach to kind of like coursework, is this: don't drink the ocean through a straw, swim in it instead. Uh, and what that means is, instead of picking up an article, reading it word for word. I mean, you should read your articles, but sometimes you'll get stuck on a sentence. I get stuck on sentences all the time, and it's like, what exactly is this meaning? And sometimes we spend too much time parsing particular paragraphs, and instead uh, we'd actually we actually do better, serve ourselves more efficiently in the long run if we kind of just push forward, and like swim in the text a little bit, um, and the meaning will come. Um, Sometimes sometimes a paragraph is actually just written poorly, and it's important to uh, kind of move forward uh, I'm sorry. Let me feedback and revise. I'm going to tell you what happened. I got a phone call from my kid at the same time that I was making this video, but I don't want to make the video again. So what I mean is swim in the text so that you don't spend extra time trying to parse the syntax of a single sentence. Just get through the work. Um, it's a fast pace. Um, a couple of reminders: your interactive, reflective, and rhetorical reading responses, they can be creative. They can be essays. They can be Word documents if you'd like them to be, but they can also be websites. They can be PowerPoints. They can be flip grids. They can be prezzies, infographics. They can be doodles, like some kind of a responsive comic book. They can be videos. As long as you are responding to the prompt or the assignment, these things can be any kind of composition. And that's kind of what we're working with here. Is well, what do you want to make? And let's work through that. So the reading this week, we're going to get more into kind of what feedback and assessment is. We're getting more into kind of the research. So spend your time swimming in those texts. There are two big things, though, that are... Oh, and speaking of spending time swimming in those texts, make sure that you're contributing to the class notebook. This is kind of a collaborative space. There are things that I'll notice that you won't notice. There'll be things that you notice that I won't notice, right? And this is true for everybody here in the class. So especially if we're swimming in the text, make sure that you spend time tossing life floaties out to other people in class. So the two big things this week, or aside from the reading, which is a task in itself, the interactive, reflective, rhetorical reading response. You've got that, but you also have your first draft of Project One, and the Project One. I've given you all three projects of the portfolio so that you can see how they link, how they scaffold. But we're only working on Project One right now, and it's a philosophy statement, no longer than 1 to 2 pages single spaced. It's a philosophy statement and a visual, a diagram, some kind of visual representation. You noticed in our syllabus we had the assignment representation, the kind of several of y'all mentioned it in your feedback to me in week 1. So what is this? This is your approach. This is your belief. This is what you value about feedback and assessment. It's very similar to a teaching philosophy, except it's a little bit more focused specifically on feedback and assessment. What do I believe about bringing feedback to my students, to my colleagues, to my peers, and what do I believe about that relationships? What do I believe is the value? What do I believe about how it works? And so one of the things that this starts to help us understand is, where do our values become practices? So if we value, for example, if we value feedback, but in our classrooms, students only ever receive the prompt, work, and then turn in the prompt, then we actually don't value feedback very much, because it didn't become part of our classroom practice, right? So we're trying to find the right words, and then we're also trying to develop practices that respond to those words. And so you'll develop this feedback philosophy. You'll also develop a visual about how you believe feedback works. The prompts are in there. The other thing, the last part of both of these assignments is, if you remember in the video from week 1, Leanne often talks about, or she talked about, the benefit of specific feedback. So this week, your projects will come with sort of a reflection feedback memo, just, it's a paragraph or two, where you will ask your peers for specific feedback. And so maybe you are looking for specific feedback about the examples that you're using. Maybe you're looking for specific feedback about the transitions from one paragraph to the next. Maybe you're looking for something completely different. I don't know. But you're going to help direct the feedback from your peers and even from me by asking for something. What is it that we can do to help you? And so these revision reflection memos are going to be increasingly part of the work that we do in class in order to receive specific feedback. Sometimes we have to direct the person doing the feedback. All right, so we made it to week 2. If you've got any questions or concerns, comments, things that you need help with along the way, please reach out to me. I'm only ever an email away. We can have a Zoom conference anytime, as long as I'm not also teaching a class. Y'all are doing great work. I'm so pleased with the experiences that you're sharing, with the work that you're doing. Keep it up. Week 1 down. Week 2, here we go. I'm excited to see what you do.